Hi everyone. Alright, we have a new lesson to work on. It's called nth roots. And if I look at these factors here, 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. So what I want to do is connect powers to roots. And I want you to see the connection between those two. 4 times 4 equals 64, which means 4 to the third power equals 64. So write this in its factors to power. And in words, what we're talking with nth roots, we'd say 4 is a cube root, or a third root, of 64. And this is how we write the cube root of 64 equals 4. So 4 to the third power equals 64. The cube root of 64 is equal to 4. Now, if I have 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, I think if you multiply that out, you'll see that is 625. 5 to the fourth power is equal to 625. Means 5 is a fourth root of 625. Oh dear. Let me write 625 up here. Alright, now when I write that in its roots as a root, the 4 goes right inside that little nook right there of the radical sign. The fourth root of 625 is equal to 5. So 5 to the fourth power equals 625. The fourth root of 625 is equal to 5. And this one, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. And that is 2 to the fifth power. And that equals 32. 2 is a fifth root of, that's the root of 32. So when I write that as a root, here's the fifth root. The 5 goes in that little place there, and here's the 32. We're taking the fifth root of 32. When we do that, we get 2. Now, I rewrote the cube root of 64 like we had up here. This little 3 here inside the radical is the index. Just search some vocabulary here. This is a radical sign. This thing right here. And inside, under the radical sign, is called the radicand. Alright. So that just kind of connects the concepts. I want you to understand how powers and roots are related, one way to the other. Now, we're going to work on simplifying, and this is a square root. When I didn't put square roots in here, we've been dealing with square roots. When there's nothing there, it's understood that that is a 2 inside there. So that is the default. If there's nothing written there, it is a square root. Alright, now the square root of 100, y to the 8th. And I've got this plus or minus out front here. And what I'd like for you to think about is 100 is 10 to the second power. Y to the 8th as a second power. If I take y to the 4th and raise that to the second power, that is y to the 8th. Y to the 4th, you remember, a power to a power, you multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. And when I get my final answer here, the square root of 10 squared is 10. That's 10 times 10 there. The square root of y to the 4th squared, the square root and the square kind of cancel each other out, and that's y to the 4th. And number 2 is also a square root. Now it has a negative here, but I'm going to try to write squares here. 49. That is 7 squared. That's 7 to the second power. U to the 8th, we did an 8th power. Let's do it the same way. We'll go u to the 4th and square that. Now v to the 12th, 6 times 2 is 12. So I'm going to go v to the 6th squared. So when I take the square root, I've got here's negative, just bring that down. Square root of 7 squared is 7. U to the 4th. Square root of u to the 4th squared. Square root and square cancel each other out. That's u to the 4th. V to the 6th squared. The square root of and square cancel out, so I'm left with v to the 6th here. Alright, one more square root. Now I've got a quantity of y minus 6 to the 8th. I'm taking the square root of that. And I'm going to rewrite that as the square root. I'm going to rewrite the power. Y minus 6, I'm going to change to the 4th power and square that. And power to a power, we still multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. So I take the square root of, okay, I've already written that. I was getting ready to repeat myself there. The square root and the square will cancel out. So I have the y minus 6 to the 4th power. Now, we're getting into different roots than square roots. This is a 4th root, number 4 here. And what I'd like to figure out is, can I write 16 as a power of 4? And if you think of 16, that's 4 times 4, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. That's 2 to the 4th power. So this is the 4th root of 2 to the 4th. And then with my powers, with these variables, I need what times 4 is 16. I think it's 4 times 4 is 16. So g to the 4th to the 4th, and then the h to the 6th, raise that to the 4th power. And 6 times 4 gives me 24. And the 4th root of 2 to the 4th is 2. G to the 4th, the 4th root of g to the 4th to the 4th is g to the 4th. And the 4th root of h to the 6th to the 4th is h to the 6th. I didn't circle that one. All right, number 5. Ooh, square root of a negative. Now, when you're taking the square root of a negative, you, if you'll recall, and I'm going to rewrite this. Do you remember that I squared is equal to negative 1? So I could do I squared. That's the negative 1. And then 16. 16 is 4 squared. And y to the 4th. Now this is a square root, so I want to write it as a square. 2 times 2 will give me that 4. So square root of I squared is I. Square root of 4 squared is 4. And the square root of y squared squared is y squared. And when I write my final answer, I'm going to write 4 y squared I. Just put that I last. And that is an imaginary number when we simplify. All right, one more. Ooh, this time we go 6th root. And 64, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. So this is 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 2 to the 6th power. And then 2y plus 1, all right, is a quantity. And what it's, I need a 6 out here. 3 times 6 will give me 18. So I'll put a 3 here and a 6 here. And the 6th root of 2 to the 6th is 2. And the 6th root of 2y to the, plus 1 to the 3rd to the 6th is 2y plus 1 to the 3rd. 6th root and 6 cancel out. So 2 times 2y plus 1 to the 3rd. All right. Just a little bit more in our examples here. It says use a calculator to approximate each value to 3 decimal places. All right. So these aren't exact. So I want to just show you now on the graphing calculator. I want to show you how to use it. Now it's the 5th root of negative 43. Now to use the 5th root, you have the square root. That would be second in this button, and you have a square root there. Make sure that's all showing up there. 5th root, you have to use the math button. And if you look, number 4, that is cube root. Now number 5 here is where we would get the 5th root. Okay, I'm going to back up. I'm going to clear that. I want the 5th root, so I'm going to put the 5 in first because I want that root. And then I hit the math button. And then I go down to number 5. I hit enter. And do you see how they put that 5th root there for us? They took care of us there. And I'm going to put negative 43. And then I'm just going to hit enter. Now, a square root, we wouldn't be able to get an answer there. I wouldn't be able to get a real answer there. We'd have an imaginary. But when it's an odd index, we can take the 5th root of negative 43. That is a real number. Now we are calculating that to 3 decimal places. So I got negative 2.12, and I'm going to round this 1 up to a 2 because of that 7. So this is approximately, make your squiggly equals, 2.122. Okay. And then the 4th root of 71. 4th root of 71. I'm going to hit the 4 first. Then I'm going to hit math. I'm going to go down to number 5. And it puts that 4 in the index for me as the index. And we're doing the 4th root of 71. So I'll put in 71. Whoops. 71 under the index, or under the radical. 71 is my radicand, if you recall. And I'm going to take 2.902, but I'm going to raise it up to 3. All right. Now, I just want to show you something here. If I take 2.903, I'm not going to get the exact answer, but if I raise it to the 4th power, that should be really close to 71. And I got 71.02, so that is really close. All right, well that is all for the video.